One day, the world was plunged into chaos as monsters poured from mysterious gates. Humanity's only hope were the hunters, individuals who awakened special powers through the system. Among them, 7 rose to the top, reaching 9-star rank with the blessings of the constellations, forming the 7 noble houses to rule the new world. But one man stood apart, the first in history to reach the pinnacle of 9-star power without any blessing at all. Because of this unique strength, the ruling houses deemed him a threat to their established order. And so, in the burning ruins of East City, they sent their forces to eliminate him. Even the great Romanov house, a magical power vying for control of Eurasia, finally made their move. He clutches a blood-splattered pocket watch. Kneeling in the rubble, wounded and exhausted, he holds onto the strange artifact. He grits his teeth, cursing the name of his opponent, Dmitri. Before him, perched atop the ruins, sits the man responsible. The Magic King, Dmitri Romanov, declares that even a 9-star hunter without a blessing has his limits. The wounded hunter demands to know the reason for this betrayal. He asks if it's because he lacks a constellation's blessing or refused to serve the noble houses, and Dmitri confirms it is both. The Magic King explains that the constellations themselves demanded his death, as his independent growth threatens their very existence. The undying king, Chinen Ryuga, realizes his power, equal to the 7 houses, makes him a threat they cannot ignore. He scoffs at their reasoning. Dmitri condemns necromancy as a power that tramples the laws of the world by controlling the dead. He channels a golden light, declaring that the power of the constellations is the true difference between them. But Ryuga scoffs that Odin's power has gone to Dmitri's head, asking if he knows why he's been so patient until now. He declares it's time to show him, as a torrent of dark, necromantic energy erupts from his body. From the rubble, the dead begin to rise. He unleashes his transcendent technique, the dark magic regeneration eclipse art, Death Field. Dmitri observes the soul-fueled technique as Ryuga stands before his army of the undead. Surprised by his remaining power, the Magic King vows to respond with his strongest magic and erase the undying king's very soul. He summons a pillar of divine, golden energy. Ryuga recognizes the technique as Odin's eye, realizing his death field is no match for it. Above them, the peerless curse manifests as the transcendent magic, Lord of Vermilion. The world is consumed by its crimson light. The crimson energy of the Lord of Vermilion surges forward. Yet facing certain death, Ryuga smiles, deciding to test a final theory. Dmitri is stunned by his opponent's laughter. Ryuga's grip tightens on the pocket watch. He raises the artifact that can interfere with time, letting it absorb the incoming constellation power. As Odin's energy floods the watch, its activation conditions are met, preparing to send Ryuga back to his past. He reveals his gambit. Lacking a constellation's power, he simply decided to borrow his enemies. The Magic King reaches out, realizing his own power is being used against him. He demands to know what the undying king has done. Ryuga confirms he is gladly making use of Odin's power to fuel the artifact. With a final act of defiance, he vows to crush the 7 noble houses the next time they meet. The hands of the pocket watch spin uncontrollably. A blinding light erupts from the artifact, engulfing the world. He jolts awake with a sharp gasp. Clutching his chest, he looks around in a state of shock. He recognizes the room as the house he used to live in. Looking down at the artifact, he realizes his desperate plan worked. His expression hardens as he recalls Dmitri's betrayal, vowing to make him pay. A system window describes the item as the broken Kronos' pocket watch, a sacred relic that can only rewind time once per world branch. The watch in his hand is now completely shattered, its power exhausted. He smirks, confirming his gamble to use a foreign constellation's power was a success. He has returned 23 years into the past, to the exact day the system first appeared. His status window displays his level 1 stats and a unique trait granting him resistance to all mental attacks. The system offers him a choice between 3 basic classes: martial artist, mage, or priest. He recalls how in his past life, he chose the mage class without much thought. This time, however, he decides to be more deliberate, vowing to survive until the very end. He gets dressed, ready to use all the knowledge he gained as a 9-star hunter. His first destination is the Natsuhabara Hunter Market. Inside, a shopkeeper greets him with a smile. As she lists her wares, Ryuga interrupts to ask for a specific item, a ring of dark abyss. The shopkeeper is taken aback by his request. She warns him that the ring is cursed, but he is undeterred and simply asks for the price. After making his purchase, he leaves the shop. She had warned him that the store would not be responsible for any harm it caused. He reflects that no ordinary person would spend a fortune on an item riddled with debuffs. A system window describes the Ring of Dark Abyss, a rare item that inflicts a powerful mental curse upon its wearer. But Ryuga knows a secret about the ring that no one else does. For anyone capable of repelling its curse, the ring grants the foundational knowledge and power of a necromancer. With his unique mental resistance, the curse is nullified and the dark power flows into him. He is pulled into a dark, ethereal space. He thinks about the nature of his curse. It takes the form of his greatest enemy, Dmitry Romanov. The spectral king's voice taunts him, questioning how he could ever win without a constellation's blessing. It reminds him that as a necromancer abandoned by the gods, he can't even inflict damage. The illusion insists that even returning to the past is a pointless endeavor. It unleashes a final mental blow, declaring that Ryuga will never be able to defeat him. Yet Ryuga stands perfectly still, completely unaffected. A system window appears, confirming the mental interference has been blocked. His unique trait, Clear Mind, activates, granting him complete resistance and shattering the attack. With the mental prison destroyed, a notification confirms he has overcome the trial of the Ring of Dark Abyss. A system window confirms the necromancer power within the ring is awakening. As Ryuga reveals the secret to breaking its curse is to simply accept it. He embraces the torrent of dark energy, vowing to surpass the power of the necromancer who originally inhabited the ring. The system announces that he has cleared the trial, and the Ring of Dark Abyss evolves from a rare to an epic ranked item. With a satisfied smirk, he admires the newly empowered artifact in his hand. The system prompts him to select a class, now offering a fourth option thanks to his unique trait, and he immediately chooses Necromancer. A spectral skull manifests as he officially becomes a Necromancer, a class that draws power from corpses and souls, granting him a special bonus trait. This trait, Guide of Death, permanently reduces the spirit cost of all his summoning magic by 20%. He crosses his arms, pleased with his powerful start in this new life. He then pulls up his skill window, observing the two abilities he has to begin with. His starting skills are Raise Undead and Bone Control, both at A rank. He reflects that his regression has reset his rank to the very bottom. Even with the vast necromantic knowledge in his mind, he can't use any advanced skills yet. He concludes that there is no escaping the levels and ranks set by the system. He knows that while following the rules can lead to 7-star power, reaching the transcendent 9-star realm requires a different path. Becoming a necromancer this early is a huge advantage, but it's still not enough. To defeat Dmitry, he realizes he needs the power of a constellation on his side. With a new goal in mind, he travels across the ocean. His destination is the ancient and forgotten Kronos Temple. He recalls the lore of the old world, where gods like Zeus lost their power after their defeat, while those who submitted, like the Titan Helios, were allowed to persist as constellations. He announces his intention to greet a fallen constellation. He slams his fist down onto the ancient altar. The shattered artifact reacts, glowing with a brilliant light. The very fabric of the temple begins to tear apart. He finds himself transported to a grand, ethereal cathedral. A disembodied voice questions his presence. Before him materializes a colossal, divine being angered by the intrusion. Unfazed, Ryuga greets the dethroned king of the Titans, Kronos. The ancient god stares down at the mortal. In his hand, the broken watch continues to resonate with power. The ancient god asks if the mortal before him is the one who reversed time. Ryuga calmly confirms that he is. Kronos notes that a human capable of regression must be powerful and questions why he has been awakened. Ryuga recalls the lore of Kronos, the titan who was betrayed and forgotten by Olympus, certain that the fire of defiance still burns within him. With a knowing smirk, he asks the fallen god if he desires revenge. The titan is taken aback by his audacity. Ryuga proposes a deal. If Kronos becomes his guardian star, he will help him achieve his vengeance. Enraged, Kronos looms over him, questioning how a mere human could dare to speak of his revenge against Olympus. Undeterred, Ryuga points out that his ability to reach 9-star rank without a blessing is proof of his power, and that his own list of enemies includes Zeus. He clarifies that his enemies are not just the Romanovs, but all 7 of the noble houses who stood by and watched. He explains that by defeating the Karamanlis' house, who are sponsored by Olympus, he will weaken their influence on Earth. Kronos finds his ambitions surprisingly small for someone trying to leverage his ancient grudge. He questions why a powerful regressor would choose the path of a necromancer, a power that goes against the laws of the world and is completely different from his own nature. Ryuga smirks, countering that this is only true if one forgets Kronos is also a god of harvest. He explains that constellations choose partners whose nature resonates with their own, and Kronos governs both time and harvest. The scythe, a symbol of harvest, is also the symbol of the reaper, linking the cycles of death and rebirth to a nature that opposes the natural order. The Titan's eyes glow red as he questions the human's audacity in trying to bind their natures together. Ryuga shouts back that this is no time for pride. He asks if the fallen god is content to live on, stripped of his power and his name. He declares that he came here believing Kronos would choose revenge, even if it meant changing his very nature to achieve it. He proposes they work together to take back the Titan's strength and overthrow Olympus. Kronos concedes that he has never forgotten his revenge, and this may be his only option. He accepts that reversing his nature will involve tremendous pain, but knows that rebirth always comes with suffering. He extends his hand, offering to become Ryuga's guardian star if the mortal can endure the trial. Ryuga is caught off guard by how quickly events are unfolding. The ancient god reaches down, officially naming Ryuga as his saint. The title leaves Ryuga utterly stunned. He realizes a saint serves as a constellation's agent, receiving their divinity directly. The holy attribute of a saint clashes violently with the dark attribute of a necromancer inside him. He grits his teeth, knowing that if he fails this trial, he will lose his chance at a guardian star forever. As Kronos looms over him, Ryuga is engulfed in a torrent of divine energy. He steels himself, determined to endure the agonizing trial. Sometime later, he walks through the airport, having successfully passed. He smirks, pleased to be back in his home country of Japan. Suddenly, a small, ethereal being appears beside him, a miniature version of Kronos who is surprised by the modern world. The tiny god floats around, remarking on how grand and cruel the flow of time is. He asks for his contractor's agreement as a system window announces the birth of a new star in the pantheon, the Harvester, a giant who stands against heaven. Ryuga looks on with a deadpan expression as the tiny god complains about being unable to grant a single blessing. He reflects that although Kronos has returned as a constellation, he has no followers and thus no real power to bestow. Ryuga knows that to mold Kronos into a true reaper, they must spread his name and influence to build the power needed to defy the natural order. Ryuga understands that after such a long time, it's only natural for the ancient god to be emotional. The tiny god reminds Ryuga that his job is now to make the name of Kronos echo across the world. He reflects on this unprecedented situation, where a necromancer has been forcibly turned into a saint, the highest-ranking priest class. A system window displays his new title, Saint of the White Knight, which boosts holy spell efficiency and removes all penalties for using necromancer skills. He also gains the additional trait, White Knight, allowing him to convert holy power to spirit and use all priest and magic-type gear. On top of that, he's granted a new holy spell, Life Drain, which absorbs a target's life force. He considers the two opposing forces now within him, the holy power of a saint and the spirit of a necromancer. The ability to use both necromancy and holy skills together is, he realizes, an incredibly broken combination. Kronos proudly declares that as the former king of gods, he chose his agent carefully, and Ryuga sarcastically acknowledges his planning. With his new powers secured, he smirks, knowing that at this point in time, the old lodging gate should be just right. He decides the ancient garden is the perfect place to test his newfound abilities. Gates are portals to other dimensions, classified as either fluid types that vanish after being cleared, or fixed types like the ancient garden, which exist permanently and have a one-star entry requirement. Its low barrier to entry makes it a popular spot for beginner hunters. He observes the other hunters forming parties, recalling how he once did the same, though never with much success. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him. A group of hunters approaches, offering him a spot in their party since he appears to be alone. He calmly declines their invitation. The party leader accepts his refusal. As Ryuga walks away, the hunter wonders if he will truly be alright venturing in by himself. The party leader tells his companion not to worry about it. Ryuga smirks, confident that at his level, going solo is more than enough. A system window confirms he has entered the ancient garden. He walks through the unnaturally quiet landscape. He crouches, anticipating the classic pattern of an ambush. With a sinister grin, he decides on his first prey. Just as he predicted, a monster leaps from the trees to attack. His first opponents are a pack of low-level goblins. He remains completely unfazed as the creature swings its blade. He thanks the creature for its convenient demise as he activates his White Knight trait, converting holy power into spirit. A system window details his new skill, Life Drain, a holy spell that absorbs a target's life force. He immediately puts it to the test on the goblin. He notes the surprising similarity between holy power and spirit when used. His hands grip the creature, siphoning its very essence. The dark energy swirls around him. The goblin's corpse withers and falls as a notification confirms his stats have increased. He grins, realizing that killing with Life Drain permanently boosts his stats. He calculates that killing just 25 goblins with this skill is equivalent to gaining an entire level, and he quickly levels up. The miniature Kronos appears beside him. The tiny god asks if his contractor is pleased with the results, and Ryuga admits the power is amazing. With the goblin's corpse at his feet, he prepares for the next step. He channels his necromantic power, ready to begin. The dark energy flows into the fallen creature. With a sinister grin, he activates his skill, Raise Undead. The goblin rises from the dead, now his loyal servant. A system window confirms a high completion rate, boosting its stats by nearly 98%. The newly created zombie is classified as a 1-star undead. He smirks, confident that this minion will be more than enough for the ancient garden. With his new soldier in tow, he ventures deeper into the forest. Before long, another pack of goblins emerges from the shadows. He and his new undead servant stand before the goblin pack. Deciding to run a live combat test, he gives his minion the order to attack. At his command, the zombie goblin lunges forward. It takes a direct hit to the face but remains completely unfazed. The living goblins swarm the undead creature, landing multiple blows. One of them lands a seemingly fatal strike to its chest. Ryuga explains that their fear is justified, as a zombie cannot be killed by striking a vital point. While they are distracted, he seizes one of the goblins by the throat. He activates his White Knight trait, using Life Drain to absorb its power and permanently increase his own stats. At the same time, his undead minion easily overpowers its living counterpart. The living goblin recoils in terror from its undead counterpart. With glowing eyes, the zombie lunges forward, tearing into its former kin. Ryuga then decides to test if Life Drain can be used on corpses as well. He smirks as he confirms the skill works on the dead, granting him another permanent stat boost. With this new knowledge, he decides it's time to speed things up. He recalls an old saying among necromancers, defeating your first enemy is halfway to your goal. And with his first undead soldier created, the rest will be easy. He activates Raise Undead on the fallen goblins, knowing that the first creation is always the most difficult. The system confirms a high completion rate, raising 4 new zombies with stats boosted by over 97%. He smirks, knowing this is the power he's been looking for. He declares that necromancers are truly the best as his new army charges forward. The undead horde easily overwhelms their living counterparts. A zombie goblin impales one of its former kin from behind. Another lands a blow, but the undead creature is completely unfazed. It retaliates with a savage, cannibalistic bite. The tiny god chides him, wishing his contractor would fight with more dignity. Ryuga retorts that he should get used to it, as this is the necromancer's way of battle. A system window confirms he has reached the maximum number of controllable undead, standing over a field of corpses. He looks down at the ring of dark abyss on his finger. His new army of 20 undead goblins stands ready for his command. With a roar, his undead army surges through the forest. They crash into the remaining goblins who flee in terror. Suddenly, an archer from another party unleashes a fire arrow. The flaming projectile pierces a goblin's chest. Ryuga's undead minions suddenly halt their advance. Annoyed by the interruption, he demands the hidden hunters reveal themselves. A figure steps out from the trees. It's the same party from the gate, and their leader nervously asks what he wants. Ryuga turns to face them, asking what the matter is. He recognizes 2 of the members as the famed twin shadow hunters. He confirms that he recognizes them as the ones who tried to assassinate him before he regressed. They are the twin shadow hunters, Rendo Yuma and Yura, a famous fraternal duo. He recalls them being a real pain to deal with, though Kronos remarks that they don't look very strong. Ryuga notes that at this point they are both still only 1-star hunters, and their party was smaller. He dismisses any personal grudge, remembering they were only fulfilling a contract. The male hunter, Yuma, asks if he is the one controlling the zombies. Ryuga realizes that the necromancer class is not yet widely known. He calmly confirms that the undead are his summons. He then explains that he needed someone to carry his things, so their arrival is a huge help. Looking at the fallen goblin, he assumes they became hunters for the money. He then makes a sudden proposal for the twins to work with him. He offers them a simple deal. He will handle all the fighting, and they just need to collect the magic stones for a 20% cut. The party leader and the twins consider his offer. His companions whisper their concerns to Yuma, pointing out that they can't trust a stranger with such an unheard-of ability. Ryuga waits patiently for their decision. After a moment of deliberation, Yuma accepts the deal. However, he tries to negotiate for a 50-50 split. Ryuga immediately shuts him down, offering a final split of 70-30, which Yuma reluctantly accepts. The other hunter, Heibara, questions his senpai's decision, but Yuma tells him not to get scared now. He explains that if Ryuga had any ill intent, they would have already been defeated. Yuma notes Ryuga's absolute confidence despite his lack of gear, certain that following him will lead to greater profits. Sometime later, the party is completely exhausted. Heibara collapses to the ground, begging for a rest. Yura leans against a tree, admitting she too is at her limit. They stand before a mountain of magic stones, the fruits of their labor. Yuma admits that while he knew Ryuga was no ordinary hunter, this level of power is far beyond anything he could have imagined. Ryuga casually remarks on the profitable corpses lying all around them. Yuma nervously suggests that they should take a break, but Ryuga's undead army continues its relentless assault. He casually points to another corpse that needs to be harvested. He reassures the exhausted party that he isn't trying to rush them. The other hunters can only stare, convinced that his stamina is inhuman. With the area finally cleared, Ryuga notes that their work here is done. He decides to check his stats to see the results of his efforts. A system window displays the massive gains he's made in a short time. He smirks, realizing that in just 3 hours, he's gained the stats of a level 4 hunter thanks to the efficiency of life drain. With his level also increased, he decides it's time to take down the dungeon's boss. Deep within the garden, the Goblin King and his royal guards await. The Goblin Shaman senses the arrival of foolish humans. Ryuga scoffs at the goblins for acting like they run the place. Yura nervously warns him that the Goblin Shaman is the southern boss and shouldn't be provoked. The shaman's eyes gleam as he orders his minions to bring the human to him on his knees. At his command, a horde of goblin soldiers charges forward. Unfazed, Ryuga gives his own army a simple command: gnaw them down to the bone. The undead minions surge forward to meet their living counterparts. A living goblin raises its sword, preparing to strike. The blade pierces the zombie's chest, splattering blood. The undead creature falls, and a system window confirms the number of active summons has decreased. But Ryuga simply issues a new command. He immediately uses Raise Undead on the fallen goblin. The creature rises once more, its numbers restored to the maximum. It immediately rejoins the fray, tearing into its former kin. The other hunters watch in disbelief, realizing he can instantly turn corpses into new summons. The Goblin Shaman decides to intervene, raising its skull-topped staff. It slams the staff into the ground, activating its totem of courage. The totem's power surges through the living goblins, buffing their stats. The shaman boasts that its totem grants buffs to allies and debuffs to enemies. But as it gloats, it notices something strange about one of Ryuga's minions. The shaman roars in fury, questioning the audacity of a human touching its sacred totem. But Ryuga has already planted his own totems on the battlefield. His undead minions begin to systematically destroy the shaman's totems. One by one, the sources of the shaman's power are shattered. Ryuga smirks, taunting the enraged boss monster. In response, the shaman unleashes its curse of madness. The curse immediately affects the other hunters, causing them immense mental pain. At the same time, the living goblins are empowered, their strength and agility boosted by 50%. The newly strengthened goblins begin to overwhelm Ryuga's undead forces. His army's numbers start to dwindle under the relentless, empowered assault. His undead minions are torn apart, their numbers cut in half. The empowered goblins continue their slaughter, thinning his ranks even further. Ryuga calmly identifies the staff as the source of the shaman's power. The shaman boasts about its bone staff, forged from the grudges of its kin. He notes the staff's composition with a hint of interest. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he declares this will be easy. He reaches out, activating his necromancer skill, Bone Control. The goblin shaman is stunned as its staff begins to tremble uncontrollably in its grasp. The skull atop the staff suddenly rips free, flying through the air. It lands perfectly in Ryuga's hand as a system window confirms the curse of madness has been broken. The goblin shaman roars in fury, demanding to know what he has done. A system window confirms the goblins are now debuffed, and Ryuga mockingly invites the shaman to try its curse again. He channels his necromantic power through the skull, utilizing his bone control skill. He notes that the grudges packed within the bone make it react even faster than normal. With a sinister grin, he offers to return the shaman's weapon. He then launches the skull directly at the stunned boss monster. The shaman can only watch in disbelief. The bone weapon impales the shaman through its back. It bursts through the creature's chest, dealing a fatal blow. As the boss monster collapses, Ryuga immediately activates Life Drain to absorb its power. A system window confirms the massive stat increase, and he smirks, noting the significant bonus from a boss monster. The other hunters stare in utter disbelief. He then kneels over a goblin corpse, collecting its blood into a bottle. He reflects that he almost drained the body completely with his life drain skill. He then instructs the party to handle the cleanup. They look out over the vast field of corpses, overwhelmed by the task ahead. Sometime later, they exit the gate. Ryuga emerges, looking completely unfazed by their ordeal. His temporary party, however, is utterly exhausted from carrying all the loot. The crowd outside stares in awe, questioning how such a small group could have gathered so many magic stones. The party leader suggests they sell the magic stones at a shop in Natsuhabara. Heibara argues that to get a fair price, they should sell the items themselves. Ryuga coldly questions why he would trust a group he only met that day. Seeing their disappointment, he quickly reveals that he was only kidding. He asks for an estimate on their haul, and Yuma calculates it to be roughly 6 million. Ryuga then pulls the goblin shaman's staff from their collected loot. He casually remarks that the staff itself is probably not worth much. A system window describes the Staff of Grudges, a cursed rare item that boosts spirit but eats away at the wearer's mind. He smirks, explaining the paradox that only priests can equip it, yet they have no use for spirit. He then declares that he will take the seemingly useless item for himself, stunning Yuma. He tells Yuma to simply deduct its value from his share when they settle up. But Yuma refuses, insisting they never could have acquired this much loot without him and that the staff should be considered his alone. He asks his teammates for their agreement, and they both readily consent. Ryuga smirks, remarking that he appreciates their teamwork. He confirms their team name is Rookies and proposes they hunt together again the next day, an offer they eagerly accept. The following day, they once again enter the ancient garden. Ryuga stands over another fallen goblin, his undead minion by his side. He asks the exhausted party if they can continue, as they lie collapsed amidst a field of corpses and magic stones. Yuma admits that he is completely finished for the day. Pointing to his overflowing bag, he tells Ryuga they can head back first, and Ryuga agrees. With his party gone, Ryuga stands alone with his undead army. Kronos questions why he deliberately sent them away, and Ryuga asks if his intentions were that obvious. He explains that from this point on, he doesn't want any witnesses. He ventures deeper into the dungeon, toward the northern ancient garden. There he is immediately surrounded by a new type of monster, spear-wielding frogmen. He unleashes his goblin army to meet the new threat. The undead minions tear into their amphibious foes with savage bites. The frogman recoils in shock, but the creatures retaliate, impaling one of the zombies from behind. His undead forces begin to fall, their numbers slowly dwindling under the assault. The frogmen's spears easily pierce through the undead goblins. He notes that the frogmen have higher stats, making this outcome inevitable. He then unleashes a new skill, Potion Control. The bottle shatters against a frogman's chest. A system window reveals the oil shower debuff reduces piercing damage, and the frogman is now covered in a slick substance. Ryuga follows up with a powerful kick. He then infuses his staff with spirit, increasing its piercing damage and impaling the creature. He stands over his fallen foe. He then activates Bone Control, seizing control of the frogman's own spears. He realizes that controlling both his undead and the staff is rapidly draining his spirit. He immediately uses Ray's undead on the fallen frogman, accepting the continuous drain on his spirit. He grits his teeth, confident that he can handle the strain. In an instant, the fallen frogmen rise again, now a part of his undead legion. With his new, more powerful army, he crushes the remaining foes and gains another level. He smirks, realizing that at this pace, he will surpass his past self in no time. His thoughts turn to Dmitri as he vows to shatter the Magic King when they next meet. His army finally reaches the heart of the Northern Garden, an ancient, sunlit ruin. With his undead frogmen and Kronos at his side, he approaches the central altar. From the altar's chest, he retrieves his prize, the pulsating heart of the forest. As Kronos questions his plan, Ryuga tells him to be quiet, needing to focus for what comes next. He begins a strange ritual, dripping the goblin shaman's blood onto the frogman's heart. The heart immediately begins to pulse with a strange green energy. He holds the now glowing artifact, his plan a success. With his future knowledge, he unlocks a hidden secret within the ancient garden, moving to its trial grounds. The system transports him to a vast, empty coliseum. He recalls discovering this place in his past life, but he was too weak to enter then. Suddenly, a massive creature begins to materialize before him. Its colossal foot slams into the arena floor. A system window appears, explaining the trial is for a single participant to prove their worth. With a determined gaze, he prepares to face the challenge. The massive creature identifies him as fresh prey, as a system window confirms the appearance of a Dragonian, giving him 10 minutes to survive in order to claim a reward.